Good evening and welcome to Truth and Justice TV. My name's Jennifer Obaseki and I'm here to talk to you today about immigration. We're going to be discussing the new and expanded route for healthcare workers who are coming into the UK. And we're also going to have a look at it from the perspective of the sponsor, that person or organisation that may want to be inviting workers into the UK to work. Now, it can be a tricky field because there are a lot of people out there who claim to be agents who want to facilitate this process. So I'll be talking to you about things you need to be wary of, and if you're thinking about applying for that sponsorship license, again, some things you need to take consideration of. Now, first of all, the UK has what it's called the shortage labour list. On this list are a series of professions in which the UK economy has a skills gap. They need to have more numbers, more people to come and service the economy here in the UK. This applies to the fields of medicine, engineering, and in fact, it has a number of categories, and you can always type even into Google UK skills shortage, UK shortage labour list, and you will have direct from the Home Office a series of professions in which they have stated they are looking for workers. So if the profession you are from or training in is on that list, you have that ability to try and apply to sponsors who are here in the UK, employers who are here in the UK for a job. One of the other things you might think of is if you are an employer in that field and you have a labour gap, you don't have enough employees that are able to fill your demand, you might think, gosh, how do I fill it with potential candidates from abroad? How do I apply for that sponsorship license? Again, this may be in the tech fields, within medical profession, or within healthcare. But today we're just going to focus on the medical profession and healthcare support workers. The reason why we've decided to do this is because earlier last month, one of the ministers actually outlined that the UK is going to add the healthcare worker onto that shortage list. Why have they done this? They've done this because the National Health Service for many years has been understaffed. And there has been a tradition to try and fill that gap with overseas workers. We've also had Brexit, which has meant a number of nurses and doctors have left the UK to go back to their own countries. And in addition, that shortage in labour within the NHS, as in the shortage of staffing, has also been fuelled by the fact many members of staff have been attracted to higher salaries overseas, such as in the UAE, Australia, and even Canada. As a result, what that has meant is that there are a number of vacancies that can be filled. Traditionally, the NHS has also sought to some particular nations to fill that gap. One of those is the Philippines, and also the West African continent and other colonial former colonies because of the fact that there's that common English language and the high standard of teaching. So if you speak a level of English, pass the requisite exams, you put yourself in a good stead to be attractive to a sponsor and a potential sponsor. But as I've said, it can be fraught with difficulties if you are a professional and you're in your home country and you're thinking, oh gosh, how do I go about this? You might be tempted and confused by a number of sponsors, but there is a lot of information out there. We're going to take a short break and then we're going to talk about what you do and things you need to look out for as an applicant. And then later on in the programme, we're going to talk to you as if you were a sponsor. So after these few moments, we'll talk about the applicant's perspective. See you in a minute. Welcome back. So today we're talking about applying to come and work in the UK within the medical profession. Now you need to have a level of English and a professional qualification. For doctors and nurses, there are very clear defined examinations that you must take. And you also have a time span in which to take those particular exams. For doctors, it's the PLAB test, and for the nurses, there are a series of exams that you must take, and also professional associations that you must join, including the Nursing and Midwifery Council. For those professionals, they must assign to their professional bodies and be signed off as credible and eligible to work in the UK. It is essential. You're not let me say, distracted by what agents may say with what they can do for you and what they can't do for you. The fact is, agents, number one, do not provide you with the contract of employment, and number two, will not help you to pass your exams. They might introduce you to training bodies, mentors, but the work has to actually come from you. On saying that, as well as the healthcare workers. And so these are just people who may work within the care industry or be qualified medical professionals in their home country, but seek to come into the UK not to work under that particular heading, so example, a doctor or example, a nurse, but want to come into the UK to work as a health care worker, therefore not ascribing to their professional bodies, but thereby working as something, well, we say as a lesser healthcare professional, but all the while a healthcare professional all the same. You must equally have specific level of qualification. The reason why, as I said, the government added this healthcare worker to the shortage list is because of the demand that is needed from the population here in the UK on professional workers. That is within the care industry. So at home, when you think of domiciliary care, people coming into the home to help you feed, wash and dress. On the wards, those people who assist the nurses to some degree, but are not acting in that capacity as a nurse. And then also in homes, in care homes, where we also saw the adverse effect of COVID and a lot of people having to leave the profession, a lot of people that were confused over the compulsory vaccinations, and those who were simply exhausted. It left such a gap. So as a result, there is going to be this opening from mid-February for people to apply for visas to come into the UK under this category. Be very careful. As I've said, a lot of people are touting themselves out there to be agents and employers, and they may not have the sponsorship license. They must have the sponsorship license to employ you. They may say we're agents, agencies, but that doesn't mean that they can actually employ you legally as required by the Home Office. And we've heard that a number of these agents have been charging people a lot of money just to register them and point them onto common information that they can actually get on the internet. If you require information about what is needed, from our offices, we'll be happy to send you the NHS slides where the Home Office and the NHS have collaborated together to give you key information that's accessible to you. No fees attached to that. But if you're asking for specific immigration advice for your visa application, that's different. That's legal advice, specific and bespoke to you, and that can also be given to you within a consultation. But going back to what is required, you must have the level of English. For a healthcare worker, you must have at least an A level. There is also the B1 level of English, and that's quite important. That's important because in order to show that you have the higher standard of communication skills to ensure that you can work within that field, that is needed and needs to be proven. There are places that are noted as recognised bodies where you can take the examination, and so you can equally go onto the Home Office website to find them within your own country. Or if you are confused, you can contact your local British embassy and they should be able to give you addresses of examination places or training colleges and institutions that teach the B1 level of English in your home country. Failing that, you can also try and search on the internet, but it must be a recognised body. Then Also, when it comes down to your salary and employment contract, there is a minimum income that you must receive. Previously, under the skills shortage list, there was a set salary that was a bit high, but for this particular provision, the Home Office has brought it down, and that's why there's been this rush of sudden interest by potential sponsors, exploitation by certain agents, and interest obviously by workers who are outside the UK who want to come into the UK and take advantage of this opportunity. So, as explained, you must make sure that you have one, the requisite qualification, two, the level of English, and three, the sponsor. If you don't have the sponsor, then obviously you don't meet the requirements. And how do you know if your sponsor actually has a license? They will have a unique reference number that's given to them by the Home Office, and it should be in the field in which they tend to employ. So sponsors are approved by the Home Office. They'll have a sponsorship number, and they will have the authority to give you a contract from overseas, because they actually have to be checked out by the Home Office. Majority, as I've said, of these agents don't actually have a sponsorship license, but promise to introduce people to sponsors, and that doesn't ordinarily happen. And what do you do if you are applying for this and you actually get hold of a sponsor who does not fulfill their obligations? Or you've given your money to an agent and they actually have not introduced you to anybody and just taken your money? Or you've actually come into the UK, realised that things have not been done properly, you're not under the right category of visa, you've not been given the correct contract, you're not being paid over £10 per hour, which is the minimum. What do you do? Well, what you do, number one, is you must have a contract of employment. You shouldn't be thinking of leaving where you are without having sight of what the terms and conditions of your engagement are. The minimum salary is set. People should not be exploiting you and paying you under what that minimum salary is. Again, your holiday must be confirmed. Many people underestimate the cost of living in the UK. It's actually quite high. You must see if there's going to be any allowances towards your relocation and you actually having set up costs. So moving, living, all of that may not be covered. So if you've not had that all set out, if there's no support for your accommodation, you must think about where you're going to stay. Is the agent or your employer going to charge you separately for that? Make sure all of that is indeed clarified so that you are not exploited. And what happens if things don't work out? What happens if you need to give notice and terminate, either due to ill health, things not working out, etc.? Again, it means you might need to get help from somebody who offers you employment law advice. So make sure these things are resolved before you think about, one, leaving your country, and definitely before you think about handing money over to anyone. Now, we're going to take another very short break, and after that break, we're going to look at it from the sponsor's perspective. What do you need to get that Home Office sponsorship license? See you in a moment. Welcome back. Now, we spoke before the break about what you need to do if you're applying to come to the UK under the healthcare workers visa, for the healthcare workers visa, or you're a medical professional. Now we're going to think about what you do if you want to apply for the sponsorship license. Now, it can be quite a let me say, difficult category to apply under. However, because of the fact that the UK government wants to encourage a bounce back to the economy, it has opened up the opportunities for people who were applying for sponsorship licenses. Now, again, this covers all areas, from areas of hospitality, tech, and the medical profession. So first of all, sit down and have a look at that shortage list, see whether you are operating as an employer within any of those fields before you then think about jumping on to whether you should go on and apply for the license. So first of all, is it a field that the government is trying to bolster? Is it a sector within the economy the government is trying to bolster? Now, specifically when looking at healthcare workers, the one thing that you must realise is the government is always robust when it comes down to any element of immigration, and that even is with employers. As you know, there's a specific fine that can be levied upon you if you employ somebody who's not eligible to work in the UK. And with the sponsorship license, the checks and the balances are even more rigorous. You are obligated to keep people's data in a certain way. You must assign a designated person to deal with the Home Office and this particular field within your operations. And that person is also has to come under a level of scrutiny. But before you even start all of that, you also have to check whether your business is eligible. The government will ask you for a lot of information, from your tax registration through to also checking out your returns when it comes down to your operations, the number of people in your workspace. The government will also ask you about your aims and why you're asking for these individuals to come from overseas. It will ask you for your numbers, how you intend to maintain their data. And it's quite, as I say, a robust and specifically difficult, not difficult, but it's a area that comes under a lot of I'm trying to think of a very good word that comes out, compliance, and that's the word. So it's an area that is fraught with compliance, and if you're seen to be in breach of that compliance, then it may adversely affect you. An example of that is that the immigration may come and do spot checks on your business, and when they come and do spot checks on your business, they may ask to see records, and this may even include records that go back to where you were advertising for these particular vacancies. So it's important, in short, it's imperative that you keep your records in a very detailed manner in accordance with the Home Office standards. So once again, if you're thinking about going into this category of being a sponsor to workers from overseas here in the UK, you must check whether your business is eligible. You must also make sure that you have carried out the correct level of advertising for the posts. You must make sure that you are able to manage and scrutinize applicants' data. So not just making sure that they qualify for the roles that you have advertised and not been able to fill from local, that's UK applicants. You then have to show that you've checked out this person coming from overseas, made sure that they meet the specific requirements in their level of qualification, make sure they score the number of points to be eligible for the visa. And then when they come into the UK, you must also show that you are able to manage their data. And not only just manage their data, but check that those individuals are also applying to the Home Office and in maintaining their eligibility to work in the UK whilst they are here. So it's not as basic and simple as you might think, but many people are doing it, and many more people, specifically those in the healthcare industry, are thinking of applying for the sponsorship visas. And that's because, as I've said, there is a shortage of people due to Brexit, due to people being exhausted, and due to people also having seen higher attractive salaries elsewhere, such as Canada, UAE, Australia, etc. So it means that there's opportunities for employers and also potential employees who are in their countries of origin. For those of you who are nurses and doctors, I've also got a video on YouTube that you can watch. If you just type into YouTube Truth and Justice TV, or you type in Jennifer Obaseki healthcare worker visa or medical workers visas, you will get the video, and it's had quite a few numbers of hits. It goes into a lot of detail with a number of professionals who are also on there, who have given much of their expert knowledge on how doctors qualify, and that's from Professor Rotimi Jayasimi, and also nursing professionals. That is also Miss Ruth Oshinkwalu, MBE, who have given their knowledge as to how to help you with your journey on qualifying to practice here in the UK. There's also another amazing organisation out there. It's called Zenith Healthcare. And that's run by a wonderful lady called Mary Akingbage. So Mary, don't kill me. But Zenith Healthcare, if you're a nurse, you're a doctor, they can also point you in the right direction to make sure that you can be qualified. Now, many people worry about a few things. One, apart from the fake agents that are taking people's money. Two, making sure that you also meet the qualifications and you've passed the right exams to make sure you're eligible to work here and meet the standard. When you come here, you also have time to do your exams if you're a nurse, and healthcare workers, you also have some support that you can tap into. So don't be too worried. So far as you meet the minimum requirements to get here, that's the important thing. But the other thing that people worry about is the brain drain, and that is the number of professionals who are leaving their home countries that might leave gaps in their home countries. So the Home Office looks at the number of people who are leaving former colonies such as Nigeria, India, Philippines to come here. And it's important that as a professional from overseas, you think about how you transmit that knowledge back, or when you are going back, hopefully how you'll be able to make sure that you have a transfer of skills. So that is a concern, but the governments try to operate this between themselves. So sometimes the UK government might suspend the number of professionals or workers from a particular country and from a particular field. So again, it's a concern, but it's something that the governments between themselves try to manage. And again, if you're involved in reciprocal arrangements, organisations that transfer knowledge, then you can help to quell and combat that particular fear. Once again, thank you for joining me here. There was a lot to cover, but I'm sure if you have questions, feel free to send them in to info@obasekisolicitors.com. Alternatively, also watch the video that is on YouTube. If you type in my surname and medical professionals, you'll get one of the videos. And this week on Saturday, we're also running another event on Eventbrite, in which we're doing healthcare worker visas, and we'll give you, those people who register will get slides, my personal slides, and you'll be able to ask further questions at that event. So thank you for joining me here today on Truth and Justice TV. Once again, was so much to cover, and try to squeeze it all down, but surely if you have questions, feel free to email them into us, and we will see you next week for a lot more information. And if you can't be good, be careful. See you next week.